Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
What a nice sound that is, isn't it? What a nice. Please sit down. Hi, Scott. So I always said that if I ever became president, I would play that all the time, no matter where I went in the building. But I've never really gotten to do it. I wanted it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's so beautiful. And pardon me for being late. We had a great meeting with NATO, the Secretary General, and we're going to do something a little different for this country. We're going to supply weapons to NATO at a large amount. They're going to deliver the weapons, and they're going to pay for 100% of the weapons. So, a little different. A little different. Hi, John. So we're really, that's a big thing. And we thought we had 4 deals, Howard, right, with Putin. Somehow they end and we get off the phone. Oh, that was a very nice conversation. And then he sends missiles into buildings someplace. I say, what was that all about? So anyway, so we're going to be doing that with NATO, and it's fully approved, fully done. We'll send them a lot of weapons of all kinds, and they're going to deliver those weapons immediately to the site of the war, different sites of the war, and they're going to pay for 100% of them. This all was made possible by going from 2 to 5% a month ago when I went there. So, yeah. And those countries, those European countries, and I said, look, we have an ocean. It's not fair that we did, because under the Biden administration, we paid about 3.5 times more than they did. We were in for $350 billion. Got nothing for it. We were in for 350, and they were in for 100. So, which really meant one thing, because you have great business leaders here. It meant very simply that they were better negotiators than our president was. But so this is a very important thing, and hopefully that will come to an end. At the end of 50 days, if we don't have a deal, then we're going to have to do. We have no choice but to do secondary tariffs. You call it secondary tariffs, which are pretty tough, which we don't want to have to do. But let's see what happens. But we thought we had a deal. Numerous times, I'd get home, I'd say, First Lady, I had the most wonderful talk with Vladimir. I think we're finished. And then I'll turn on the television, or she'll say to me one time, wow, that's strange, because they just bombed a nursing home. I said, what? So we don't like that. But I want to thank you all for being here, and welcome to the first ever White House Summit of Faith and Business Leaders. You're really some of the greatest business leaders in the country. When I looked at some of the names, I said, whoa, that's big stuff we have here today. In fact, before I was president, I would have been very intimidated, but now I'm president, so I don't have to be. But today we celebrate the core values that built this country: and freedom, hard work, risk-taking, and above all, trust in Almighty God. You're very much into God in this room, and that's very nice. You're business leaders who believe strongly. We have some business leaders that don't believe strongly, and somehow you and I don't like them as much. But I want to thank Pastor Paula White. She's been my friend for a long time. And John, for convening this incredible group. You know, her husband's one of the most talented musicians in the world. Stand up, John. Stand up. Okay? I stole a couple of his songs for the rallies, and he never sued me, so I was very happy. But we all come from the same place, right? So it was great, and we appreciate it, John. Thanks as well to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's doing a fantastic job. He goes on television and he calms the market. I go on television, I rile the market, and I say, we better send him in there, Howard, right? And the market's become so calm and nice. So you're doing a good job, Scott. Thank you very much. You make any deals today? We got a lot of them, boy, I tell you, we have. But the best deal is just sending out the paper. You know, they keep saying, well, he hasn't made the deal. Well, we made a number of deals, but why isn't he doing deals? Because the paper is better than any deal we can make. Do you understand? The people in this, Kevin, they asked you that question this morning. You were great this morning, but they said, well, when is he going to start making deals? The next time we could say, just, no, every time he sends out a document that you have to pay 35%, or 25%, or 50%, or in one case, 100%. Those deals, you can't beat those deals, but we're still willing to talk. And they all, literally every country wants to make a deal. We're in a good position. You would call it a position of strength. I don't talk that way because I'm a politician now, unfortunately. And I don't want to talk about strength. I just want to say we have to be treated fairly, because we were ripped off on trade and the military for, you know, we protected other nations. Nobody paid us. Nobody did anything for us. Nobody helped us. And that's much different. You know, NATO is a much different situation now. When I got in,
Good morning.
I believe we were paying for 100% of NATO. And now they're paying, they went from 2%, but they were paying 1% to 5% that they're paying. It's a big difference. It's about $1 trillion difference. And they're wealthy, for the most part, wealthy countries. And some of them they're among the most powerful, among the wealthiest countries in the world. So they're going to start paying, and they want to pay. And we had a great meeting about 1 month ago. That set the stage for what happened here, but it's very important. So I want to thank Scott for being here. I want to thank Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. You are doing a good job, Howard. Am I right when I say I really don't want deals? I just want the paper to get sent? Right? It's true. I don't know if this is on television. Yeah, it's always on television. SBA administrator and a great person, cabinet member, a friend of mine for a long time, Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, you're doing great. She's small business, right? She only does small business, but when you add it all up, it's the biggest bank in the world by a factor of about 10, right? She's doing a great job. And director of the White House Faith Office, Jenny Korn, who's also amazing. Thanks, Jenny. From the earliest days of our republic, the steady compass of faith has guided the strong hands of American workers, builders, and entrepreneurs like really no other. Our country was founded by pilgrims and believers, and every generation since, Americans of faith have built our communities and forged new industries and enriched our country by millions and millions of people and ways. John D. Rockefeller,
Hey, morning
J.C.
drama.
Penney, Charles
How's everyone
Goodyear,
doing?
Truett Cathy, and frankly, we have people I could name right in this room sitting here that their names are every bit as big as that. They were inspired by their love of God, and now the proud tradition continues with all of you. And this group reminds us, as a nation that prays is a nation that prospers. And you see that. I think one of the reasons we went so bad is they really wanted to take God and religion out of your lives. And there was nobody to, look up to. There was just nobody. It was, we were freewheeling, and we can't freewheel. Now we have to bring religion back into the country, and we're starting to do that, I think, at a very high level. Paula, a very, very high level. You see churches are starting to fill up again. Under the Trump administration, America is prospering and America is winning like never before. Our country is back. So I was in
Lower
Qatar,
highs.
Saudi
Wondering if
Arabia,
that's it for the
UAE,
day.
and then a month
Still
ago, we were in,
distributive,
Europe with
so
all
not
of the
necessarily.
NATO countries, European countries, and plus Canada. And almost everyone said almost the exact same words. They said, 1 year ago, your country was dead. Terrible term, but that's what it is. Your country was dead. We thought it was finished. And now you've got the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Now they know.
Is the hottest country. Did you see they found $25 billion of essentially profits last night? They said, where did it come from? It came from management, but it came from tariffs. And it came from, good business skill. And I've always made money. Now I'm making it for you people. I've had good days and bad days, but in good days and bad days, I always found a way to make money, and we have to do that for our country. But and we did 188 billion in Scott just now, 188 billion in tariffs, 188, and we haven't even started yet. That's only for cars and steel. We actually have barely started. The economy is roaring. Business confidence is soaring. Incomes are up. Prices
How
are
many
down, and inflation
casinos?
is dead. It's dead. We have a bad Fed chairman, really bad. If he would lower the rates, and I tried being nice to the guy. It doesn't help. He's like a knucklehead. No, he's a knucklehead. A stupid guy. He really is. Each point, think of this, each point costs us $360 billion.
Have you not gotten your checks from the Sovereign Wealth Fund yet?
$360 billion. 2 points, you got $700 billion. And we're way high. We're at 450 or 425? 450? And how do you go borrow money at 1% when the Fed has you at 450? And, it's not that easy. I get angry at them. Why are we paying so much? Because he's got you up at this number. And we we should always be the lowest. Now that we're doing great, we have no inflation. Think of it. Our stock market hit record highs.
Who doesn't even know what the
Everything's hitting a
Fed's
record high.
fund rate is
running
at?
with no inflation, and we should be at 1%.
Good morning,
We
you
should be
two.
less than 1%. I think Switzerland is the lowest at like 0.5%. We should be lower because without us, there's no world. I don't want to sound overly aggressive, but
No, he
without us,
fixed
there's
that,
no world.
remember?
And we've put our country on solid footing. We had a man as president who was the worst administration, worst president in the history of our country. We've had some bad ones, but he's the worst ever. What he did at our border.
Why do my socks
Can never
cost
be
more? They're
25
thinner.
million people
They're made
allowed
with
to
less
go into our
material
country, all unchecked,
in a worse
unvetted,
way, and you
murderers,
get fewer per package.
gang leaders,
And then they also cost more.
gangsters, people that you don't want in our country under any means, terrorists. We have many terrorists in our country, and we're watching them close. Tom Homan, by the way, is doing a phenomenal job. Christine Noem is doing a phenomenal job. We had last week, it was reported, nobody, not one, even I don't know if I believe that number, but it's done, the numbers are done by liberals. So they said, did you know that? They said we had nobody.
Who doesn't love a
zero,
good number?
across our border. It's the first time that ever happened. Zero. Did you hear that? It's like crazy. But we have people from mental institutions, insane asylums even. That's a mental institution on steroids, essentially. But we had people coming into our country. We can't have them. And we have to get them out. But we can never forgive this administration, this past. And I'm okay with administrations. I mean, I can go through a Democrat administration, say, hey, look, they worked hard, they tried hard. But the things that they did to this country, we can never, ever forget it. From the rigged elections to the border, to the transgender for everybody, from men playing in women's sport. You ever take a look at some of these records? There was a long distance race, a marathon, where they had a great female runner, a number of them, but they had one in particular, and they had just an average male runner who had transitioned. He won the race at the end of the day by 5 hours and 14 minutes. They waited for 5 hours. The weightlifting records are better, though. The weightlifting records are better, you know, where they took a record that hasn't been broken for 18 years. 18 years. And, you know, they'd add a quarter of an ounce on each side of the barbell. And they'd just, a little tiny piece of stuff. She'd go up and she couldn't get it up. And this guy comes along. Have you lifted before? Yes, at a low level. He was a low-level lifter as a man. But transition, and he goes up to that thing. Bing, 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 bing. Could have done it all day long. Broke the record by 119 pounds. The whole thing is crazy. The swimming records are pretty good, too. You got to see that. I told the story. You had this great group of young ladies, and they grew up with each other because, you know, they sort of swam at the top level. And they were swimming, and one girl was seriously injured. She looked left, and she saw the same girl she grew up with, Kelly, in California. Same girls, you know, that young age.
I don't think he's ever done a strict press in his life.
The same girls, but there was this
I can agree with that.
and he had transitioned. You probably heard this. He had transitioned. And she never seen her before. And when the race was started, he blew by her so fast that she suffered massive windburn. They had to take her. It's true. And he got out of the race and he went had a little lunch, and then he came back and watched the rest of the young ladies finish up. The whole thing is crazy, and it's so demeaning to women. It's so demeaning to women, but it is what it is. But what they did to this country, and we ended all of that, as you probably know. We ended the woke. The woke stuff is no longer in favor. But we're doing fantastically. Wages for blue-collar workers have surged by the most in over 60 years. Gas prices have reached the lowest level in 5 decades. Actually, we're going to see some really good numbers. Drill, baby, drill, drill, baby, drill. I got to make sure that people can afford to produce the gas. But the gas has gone to the lowest level in decades. And you're seeing $1.99, $1.98, and I saw $1.95 at certain states. Not California, because every time it goes down, they add taxes onto it. You're at $6, $7. They just add taxes. All they do is they keep adding taxes. Terrible governor, doesn't know what he's doing. He may be a candidate, but if you go by success, you can't have him be a candidate. And on Friday, it was announced that the United States Treasury ran a budget surplus. Is that true, Scott? In June, for the first time in many, many decades. Wow. I didn't know that. That's a good one, too. I'm going to have to put that in my repertoire, Scott. But the biggest victory of all came 10 days ago when I signed the one big, beautiful bill into law. Right?
What are the HE double hockey sticks is top fan? I have no idea.
Just as I promised.
This is the top fan ranking, and why does it think I'm not number one?
Everybody was against it. I wanted it. I know Scott and Howard liked the idea of it too, but it was very risky because they've never done anything like it in terms of.
I was under 50 cents 5 decades ago.
By far. And they were going to cut it into 3 or even as many as 7 bills. I said, the problem is that in the one big bill, everybody gets something. When you cut it into 7s, there are 4 or 5 of them or 3 of them, right, Kevin? That you get nothing. All they're going to do is fight it. You'll never get them passed. And so we went with it. I was on a show called Deface the Nation. Have you heard of it? They're so bad. They're so bad. These people, they're so average. But I was on this show, Deface the Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, President Donald J. Trump on Deface the Nation. No, but they're all so bad. But we were on the show, and she said to me a question. She said, what would you call this bill? Would you want to have it called One Big Beautiful, or would you rather see it? I said, what I want is one great, big, beautiful bill. And Speaker Mike Johnson, John Thune, they were watching, and they said, what a great name for the bill. We actually ended up calling it that. We took the great out. I actually liked it even better. One great, big, beautiful. But they said, let's a little bit of a low key. But we got to pass. But we got to pass because there's something for everybody. And there are things that people don't like, but you need them for the country. You know, you have to do some things that are great for the country, but they wouldn't necessarily get the votes. And we got the votes. Think of it, not one Democrat vote. All the goodies that we got, not one Democrat voted in either the Senate or the House. And we're talking about tax cuts and business. I mean, so many different things that are so good, right? Not one Democrat vote went with us, not one. So we had to get almost every. In the House, we got 218 to 2. Think of that, 218 to 2. Nobody could do that. It's never been done. And that says, and we have Rand Paul Jr., who's a guy from, we call him Rand Paul Jr. because he always votes no. A guy named Massey, always votes no. We had another guy who I helped very, very strongly, helped him with a very personal situation, got him through it. And he voted no. I said, thank you very much, I appreciate it. And then we went to the Senate, and you had, of course, Rand Paul, who always votes no. And they call him Just Say No. I think they think it's... No, I think and I got him elected. I had to go to Kentucky twice to do rallies to get him elected twice. But they forget, a lot of politicians forget. And then we had a couple of others. Susan Collins, she's another one, Just Say No. She always, brutal. And we had some people, Tillis, I guess, was a no, right? He was a no. And they said he was brave. He said no to the president, but he resigned the following morning.
Some bot calls at
So, anyway,
60 holding us up a little.
But we couldn't lose more than 3. And we had 3 that said
Not
no.
much. Hard to get over
And,
70.
So we won that 50 to 3.
Little
So
bit
it's
stuck.
pretty close. And a senator came over to me and said, I can't believe you won the House. Great guy, this senator. Eric Schmidt, who's doing a great job. He said, I can't believe you won the House. I said, actually, so remember 218 to 2, we needed 3, so we could have lost 3. We actually only lost 2. I said, no, actually, the Senate was tougher than the House of the 2. That question is asked to me, who was tougher? I'd say the Senate was tougher, actually, amazingly. It shouldn't have been. We had a slightly bigger margin in the Senate proportionally, but it was brutal. It was, they said, sir, we have 12 hard no's. You know, a hard no is not recoverable, right? This was at 2:30 in the morning. Mike Johnson called up. It could be 20, but it's at least 12. So could you call them, sir? And I said, what time? I said, 2:30 in the morning. And we have to win, right? We can never give up. The people in this room, right? You never gave up. My supporter right from day one, and her husband with a bad damn back, right? How's his back? Is he okay? Every time I see him, he's got a bad back, but he's got a lot of cash, so. A lot. He's got a lot of cash. But no, they're great people. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you. You were there right at the beginning, you know, always was there. But we have a situation where we call up these people at 2:30 in the morning, and I called up. I got along with them all great. I liked them, but they're tough. You know, they're congressmen. When you're a congressman for 20 years or you're a senator for years, you're smart, and you're a survivor because you go through all sorts of hell. But I called up Congressman. I said, Jim, hi, Jim, how you doing? He said, fine, sir. I said, family's good, yeah. He said, sir, you have my vote. I never said what I was calling about. I said, I do, thank you very much. But how do you know what I'm calling you about? Well, he said, sir, I've been your friend for 2.5 years. You've never called me during normal hours. So I assume that if you're calling me at 2:30 in the morning, you're not calling me to ask me, how's the family doing? I said, yeah. So, pretty good. So I called up everyone. I think everyone with the exception of one, I had to speak a little bit, but I call up, sir, you have my vote. Thank you. Sir, you have my vote. Think of that. And we got 12 votes in a matter of, I called back 20 minutes later. I said, you got all the votes. That's spirit, right? That's spirit. They wanted to maybe hear. They wanted to have a little love. You know, the sad part is that some of the best people are the people that don't get any publicity because they go with something because it's good. So a guy like some of the people I'm talking about, but some of the people where you didn't even have to call, they vote yes, 100%. You don't have to waste any time with them. You don't have to beg them, come on, you can do it, come on, let's have lunch, let's have dinner. And then you have other guys that want you to suffer. I mean, some of these people that I just mentioned, whose names I just mentioned, you got to go through hell. And the ones that are really good, and they love the country, and they're doing right. I mean, what's the alternative? You know, the alternative here, you're getting the biggest tax cut in history. And with the Democrats, you're going to have the biggest tax increase in history. Now, we could go into 100 other details. They're equally as crazy. So I said, so what's the difference? So you're going to say no, and you're going to have the biggest tax cut in history this way, and you're going to have the biggest tax increase the other way, and you'll probably end up in a depression, because if you ever did that, it would be a shock to the whole world. That's what happened in 1929. I said, so you're going to vote for the other side? Well, sir, I'll do what's really appropriate. You know, they're losers. But you have that. Really, they're grandstanders. You know, you have grandstanders, and you have them in every business. And the Democrat has far fewer. They're grandstanders. But, you know, the one thing about them, they have bad policy. They're evil people in many ways, but they stick together. You don't have it where you don't have, I don't want to use too many names, but you don't have a Mitt Romney in the midst who makes you suffer. You don't have some of the people that I mentioned who make it so hard. They make it so hard. And the alternative is one of two things. You can either get all these things and make the economy strong, or you're going to literally have perhaps a depression where you people so rich, so beautiful, so nice to look at will be totally busted. And let's see how long your wife stays with you. You're beautiful. She'll stay with you for about 3 weeks, and she'll say, darling, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore, darling. I'm leaving you. I said to one guy, he's a very, very unattractive man, but he's smart. and he's rich. And I said, you better hope we get this thing passed because your wife will be gone within about 2 minutes. He said, you're right. But so we had a tremendous success, and it gives you the biggest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut in American history, and the largest border security investment of all time. And again, we're doing great on the border. I almost say, why do we need it? We have such
What is
good
he
numbers,
talking
but
about?
ultimately, you're going to need it.
It's
They
anyone's
built hundreds
gas,
of miles of
man.
border wall. Without that, you could have never had the results that we had. But to lift up the American family, we increased the child tax credit and made school permanent. We made it all permanent, the school choice. And we expanded school choice, and for every newborn child, we created what's called the Trump accounts. And this was Michael Dell. I don't know if Michael Dell's here, but Michael Dell, well, you tell him I mentioned his name, because it's true. He would call me for 3-4 years. I didn't know Michael. I just know he's a great success story and a great guy. That's all he talked about, was the account where you put $1,000, and as a baby is born, $1,000 into an account, and you let it be invested by, I guess you pick out some good money determinant or fund or index. And I guess at a certain age, like when they're
What's
30,
the point of this
it was
meeting?
earlier than
No
that, but when
idea.
they're 30, they're supposed to have like $75,000. That would have a
It's supposed to be like a
huge
faith
their
luncheon.
lives. And it could even be more than that.
But
So
if there's one thing the
that
Bible's
passed.
taught
And it's
us,
funny, that was one
the
of the
Christian
easiest things we
Bible,
had to get passed. Can you believe it?
it's
I thought
that
so many
Jesus
people love
Jesus
they actually
loved
called it
tax
the Trump
cuts for the wealthy.
accounts, and I didn't fight for that name, right? I didn't fight for that. I said that's a very great honor. But Michael Dell was amazing. That's what he said he's going to invest billions of dollars.
Self-glazing session.
Put all
Yeah.
of his money into it.
Hey,
Even
man.
more importantly than the economic success, we're restoring the spirit of our country. America is once again an optimistic nation. We were so down. It was depressing. We were so down. That's why I ran again. I got cheated. They rigged the election. But I said, if I didn't think I won, I would have never run. Because that's like a poll, right? You lose, you lose. It's worse than a poll. But I saw the lack of spirit in this country. For 4 years, it was a dark, horrible place. And for people of religion who were arresting your pastors, they were arresting if you went to church and you had a service outside. And the reason outside, because you had the COVID. And you could go outside. They'd arrest everybody for even having the service. I'll tell you, religion took a big hit because of the way they treated all of us. And we now have a confident nation, an optimistic nation. And we have one nation under God, and we'll always keep that term. And we're bringing back, very importantly, and not just evangelicals or Protestants or all religions, we're bringing them back into our country. As president, I've ended the radical left war on faith, and we're once again protecting religious freedom like never before in our country. We're protecting it like never before. We're getting rid of the Johnson Amendment that didn't let the pastors and ministers and everybody speak about politics. Now you're able to speak about politics, Paula. You can say, I don't like that guy, and they don't take away your tax-exempt status. They take away tax-exempt. And I'll tell you, remember when that started? It was at the meeting room before I ran, 2015, a year before the election. And I was with 50 faith leaders. They were great, very well-known people, mostly Protestant, but you had rabbis. You had an imam, 2 imams. And we were talking, and I said, I'd love to have your endorsement. And they looked at me like, what? I'd love to have your endorsement. We have such respect for you, and your control are really very powerful. And they looked at me, they didn't say anything. Do you remember that? And I said, what's wrong with these people? I didn't know about the Johnson Amendment. Don't forget, I never did this stuff before. It wasn't like I ran. I was on the other side. I was on the same side as you. You write contributions to people that you like. But I never ran, so I didn't know about the Johnson Amendment. And I called Paula and Jenny aside. I said, could I ask you, when I said I'd want your, support, your political support and endorsement, they looked at me very weird. What's going on? Well, sir, there's a thing called the Johnson Amendment. And if they even speak about anything having to do with politics, they will immediately take away their tax-exempt status. And if they lose the tax-exempt status in your world, that means you might as well close up your church. I said, you got to be kidding. So I can't really. And I told them, we had another meeting a couple of months later. And I said, you people in theory are the most powerful people. You're more powerful than man or woman because we have more than 50. Let's assume men and women are 50-50, but you have 80% between all the different religions. I said, you have more power than anybody, but you're not allowed to use your power. I said, we're going to get rid of that because people want to hear what you have to say more than anybody else, pretty much. And we did get rid of it. And we launched something that's great. And now you see people, if they like somebody, they're able to talk about that somebody for office, right, Jenny? We're able to talk about a certain politician that has your values and likes your religion. It's okay. And we got rid of that. Was Lyndon Johnson, a very powerful guy. And he had a problem with a pastor, I think in Houston. And the pastor was not a fan of his. And he put the clamps on the guy. He really did. Amazing, actually. And we opened it up. I looked at him, and we're up 68 stories in the air at Trump Tower, and in this beautiful conference room. I look down, I see people walking up and down the street. I said, that means that that person walking up and down the street, any one of them have more power than you do because you're not allowed to even talk about it. You were even afraid to talk about it, but they're not afraid any longer, and I think they appreciate it. As president, I've ended the radical left war on faith, and we're once again protecting religious freedom instead of destroying it. And God is once again welcomed back into our public square. It's very important. And I stopped the Biden administration's persecutions of Christians and pro-life activists. They would put people in jail if they even uttered the word. And, well, look at me. I mean, look what happened to me. I was under investigation more than the late, great Alphonse Capone. Think of it. Al Capone would kill people for dinner. If he left the room and he didn't like them, he'd have them shot, killed, buried under a building someplace as part of the foundation of a building. They're all over the place. And I said, I had more time under investigation than the legendary Alphonse Capone or probably anybody else. But I had a lot of good people with me, and most importantly, I had the base with me at a level that it actually became stronger. The one thing I did that was very helpful, I was indicted 5 times. Think of that. Indicted. That wasn't a word that was in my father's looking down. My
But how many times were you found guilty?
My son's not supposed to be indicted, I think. I got indicted 5 times, impeached 2 times. All bullshit, right? All
Oh, yeah, there we go. Cursing at the faith luncheon.
I got impeached for making a perfect phone call. Good luck. Congratulations. I had a guy come up to me, a secretary of energy from before. Sir, could you call up, of all people, President Zelensky? And I called him. I actually held off. He must have come 10 times. Please.
There's smoke.
Because they wanted to do business or something, oil and gas. Who the hell knows what they wanted? You can imagine what they wanted, but they wanted, would you call up President Zelensky? And I did. When I finally got him, I said, congratulations on your win. He had just won. This is early in the process. Should have never been, that war should have never taken place, by the way. If the election weren't rigged, that war would never be happening right now. Millions of people being killed. That war would never be happening. But would you call up? So I say, hello, President. How are we doing? Everything good? Good. Congratulations on your big victory. Wonderful job. Great, great, great. Hang up. That's it. I get indicted for making a phone call. I told that secretary, who wasn't the smartest bulb, he wasn't Rick Perry. You don't want him on your debate team. Let me put it that way. Rick, you're not going to be on my debate team, Rick. But he's the one that asked me to do it, Rick Perry. And I said, thanks, Rick. That was a wonderful suggestion. I just got indicted over your stupid call. This is what we have to put up with, right? This is what we have to do. We have to put up with things. But it's been an amazing period of time, and we've straightened out so many bad things in this country. I created a presidential commission on religious liberty and established the Department of Justice task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias, because you have a very big anti-Christian bias that you don't think about and you don't hear about it. I established the White House Faith Office to defend and represent people of all faiths, and it's located in the White House. You've never had an office. We've never had that.
Ball's picking up a little bit to the
And
downside.
Jenny and Paul are there all the time, but we have it in the White House, so people can call up and complain, or they can call up and say, you're doing a great job, whatever. But we have it actually in the White House. Nobody's ever done that. We've restored the fundamental principle that God created two genders, male and female. That was a tough one. And we're defending parents' rights where the parents' rights have been taken away from them in schools. You look at some of these school boards, it's like they're brutal dictatorships. And we brought it all back.
Write a book,
Parents
Don.
have
People
control
need
now
to
of
know
those
how to
schools.
prevent
We
war.
effectively eliminated the infamous, as I said, Johnson Amendment, such a big deal, and various other amendments and things that really took away your free speech. That's what they've done. They've taken away free speech. I also want to recognize the incredible contribution of our great First Lady, Melania, and she says hello. And Melania did the Be Best initiative in supporting children in our foster care system. She visits a lot of children, a lot. Yesterday we went to the game, the soccer game. I don't know if you saw it in the Meadowlands. It was incredible. And she's always thinking about the children that have a hard time and helping America's young people reach their fullest potential. And it's remarkable to think that it was only 1 year ago this week that my time on earth nearly ended. And if you look at that, God was with me, because that's something that, in theory, I should not be with you today. Well, I believe that, and I believe it, that my life was saved by God to really make America great again. I really believe that. I think I have a son, he's a great shooter, like a championship shooter. Don and Eric was a great shooter, both of them. But they said that at that distance with that gun, you didn't have a chance. And we turned the head at the right time, didn't we, huh? We turned the head at the right time. So, I don't know, some people say it was lucky, and some people say something else. I say something else. I think God helped us. So I always believed in giving back to this nation, a nation that we love so much, and I know that everyone lives by that same sacred principle. The people in this room do, I can tell you. I hate when I see complainers, people that complain and they don't do anything about it. Like, in many cases, the media, not all of the media. I must have something because we won in a landslide. Think of it, we won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won the popular vote. We won there's a district vote that's very interesting. It's where the whole map looks red for Republican, by the way. But the whole map came out, I think it was 2,750 to 505. Think of that. That's broken into little districts, little areas. We had an unbelievable election, and so I don't know, somebody said, how do you win without the press? But we have a hidden press, and the real hidden press and the hidden vote is the people and the word of mouth. Word of mouth is more important than the press, and they see what we do, and they see how we do it. I want to thank all of you and your great communities, and, it's a blessing to our country that you're here. And a blessing to our country that you become so successful and so great. And people look up to you, have no idea. You don't know. We take things for granted. You don't know. The people in this room are amazing. I even, looking at that list, I really said, that's something great. And you're all believers. I think, Paula, you wouldn't have invited people that were, not a lot of, is there an atheist in the room? Any atheists? I don't think so. I wouldn't want to raise my hand if I were. I'd be in big trouble. No, you invited all people that are outstanding in faith and success, and it's a very noble group. But it's because of the patriotism and goodwill of citizens like you that America remains strong and faithful and free. And together we're going to continue the fight for Judeo-Christian values, of our founding fathers. We'll grow our economy. We'll defend our sovereignty. We'll protect our children. When you look at the job we did, I was just thinking because President Putin said it to me and other leaders said it to me. When they looked at those B-2s go in and
It's not even
they
that
flew for
funny.
37 hours straight. We had 52 tankers, the gasoline
Vic's
tankers.
back under
And they
17.
rode along with them at different aspects, and they refueled. And not a screw was broken, not a mark was on those planes. Every engine was perfect. When they landed, they were just as good as when they took off. Think of that, 37 hours and about 40 minutes through a very rough territory. And those machines worked incredibly well and literally not a problem. And when I honored the flyers, we did it last week, I also honored the mechanics, the people that took care of those machines. And I said it's equally important. And you compare that, same country, you compare that with what happened with Jimmy Carter. It was a sad situation. The helicopters were coming down and they were crashing and the men were all over the place trying to get the hell out of there. And it turned out to be a hostage situation and horrible thing. And probably it was one of the things that cost him the election, certainly. But when you think of that and you see this was, in terms of perfection, they think it was a perfect military. We sent the planes to Guam. Everybody thought we were flying to Guam. And they said, oh, they're going to Guam. Well, Guam's out of the way. At the same time, we had some others going a different direction. I watched horrible CNN. You know, you have to watch sometimes your opposition, and they are opposition. And I saw that they had basically the plans of when we're going in, when we would be entering Iranian oil airspace. And I said, you know, that's weird. And I called the general, Raisin Kane, he's fantastic. I said, General, and Pete Hegseth, I said, I'm watching newscasts where they're saying what time you're taking off tomorrow and what time we're going to be entering the very dangerous airspace, the worst air space anywhere there is, anywhere that in the world. I said, what do you think? Sir, we'll be fine. We blow them away, we'll be fine. Because, you know, they went those B-2s with 7, and they were surrounded by a lot of great planes. F-22s, the most beautiful plane ever built. The fighter jet, F-35s, had a lot of different planes going with them. I said, but wouldn't a surprise be better? Yeah, it would be better. I said, well, then let me cancel it, and let's make it at a different time. So the day before, you know, I canceled it. I said, I'm canceling it. We'll do it sometime within the next 2, maybe 3 weeks, but I'm canceling it. And then I had a meeting and I said, I have an idea, because I got slightly big coverage, to put it mildly. So everyone knew it was being canceled. I said, let's leave at the exact same time we were supposed to leave, the following day. And we took off, and that's when the planes went out to Guam and this and that, and we took off. And that was the only time. And they said it. That was the only time they knew we wouldn't be coming in, was the exact same time that I came. I said, let's do something. And they flew in, and they were stealth, incredible planes. They were stealth. And they hit every bomb, hit their mark. Every single bomb hit the mark. It was unbelievable how they did it. And then they said, skedaddle. Skedaddle means get the hell out of there. They had to get out of that airspace. But it was an amazing thing, and I think it was so great for our country in so many different ways. You know, you see so many incompetent people, like the way we left Afghanistan with Milley and all these incompetent, stupid people. And Biden, I mean, it was him. Leave everything behind. We'll leave jets behind. I said to Milley, I said, so you mean to tell me, because I was going to leave. We would have left earlier than them, but we were going to leave with dignity and strength. I said to Milley, you mean you want to leave a jet fighter behind? Sure, it's cheaper if we do that. I said, wait a minute, give me a tank of gas and I'll fly it to Pakistan, or I'll fly it to someplace, or I'll fly it back home. Why is it cheaper? Oh, it's just cheaper.
70 tests.
That's when I realized the guy was grossly incompetent, okay? He's telling me it's cheaper to leave a plane than it is that planes cost $150 million apiece. Let's leave it, sir. It's just great. And they did. They left all, you know, I was taking everything, but they left it behind. But when you look at what happened and compare that to what we have now, we have a real
upside
great
resistance
machine. I
here.
rebuilt the military in my first term, and we left. We left some of it to Afghanistan and the Taliban, and they have their parades. I hate those parades. Every year they have a parade wheeling down our equipment on some very unattractive street. That's, their Fifth Avenue. They show our equipment going down. Just it's getting older and older, but I hate to see it. But we're going to be working together to protect our children, and with the grace of God and the blessing of providence, we will lead our country to heights that it's never seen before. I think we're going to be more successful in many ways, but I think we're going to be more successful than we've ever been. And I do think this, if we didn't catch it, if we would have lost this election, our country was finished. I think it was, we were run by incompetent people. We were run by an auto pen that nobody knows who used it. I think it's one of the biggest scandals in the history of our country. We were run by an auto pen. Nobody has any idea who used it, including Biden. He doesn't know. He saw that interview yesterday. He knew nothing. So it's a very terrible, we're against an evil group of people, and they're very smart, very smart. He's not, but they are. They took over the Oval Office. They actually took over the Oval Office. We can never let a thing like that happen again. So, Paul, I want to thank you very much, and I want to thank Jenny, and most importantly, I want to thank the people in this room. You really are incredible people, an inspiration to our country. And I know you don't know that. You don't think it because you're too busy working. But you are. You're a great inspiration to young people that want to be just like you when they grow up. And thank you very much for being here. And it's a great honor. And, Paul, I think you're going to say a prayer. I'll stay with you while you say your prayer, okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. You guys may be seated for just a moment. And he is our greatest champion of faith of any president that the United States of America has ever had. We are deeply grateful for that. We are very honored that you are all here with us at the White House, and where faith is not sidelined, but has a seat at the table. And as we gather today as leaders of industry, of vision, of faith, I believe that today is going to be very enlightened. And I'm so overwhelmed. We're getting ready to worship and pray, and to just think that prayer, worship, and doing good works is welcome back into the White House. President Trump is a historic and a bold move established the White House Faith Office to recognize some simple truths: that America is strongest when faith is engaged and not silenced, when believers are activated and they are not isolated. This administration understands that people who are of faith, who are entrusted with wealth and influence as you are essential to building a stronger, freer, and a more compassionate nation. You're more than just CEOs and business leaders and entrepreneurs. You're stewards on divine assignment, builders of legacy, and vessels of impact. You've been called by God to his kingdom for such a time as this. And together we are witnessing something absolutely remarkable. More has been accomplished by this administration in the past 5 months than in the last several decades. And that is due to the leadership of President Trump, his administration, and the great team he has assembled. America's spiritual and moral foundations have been restored, and it's only the beginning. Today's not just a luncheon. It is a moment of divine alignment, a commissioning. And we believe that God is raising up business leaders who don't separate faith from enterprise, but who see their platforms and their pulpits as their businesses and instruments for eternal impact. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with great reverence and expectation.
How do we get #1 fan? I have no idea how it works.
43, verse 19. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Lord, we do perceive it. We see the stirring of your hands, reviving hearts, reforming systems, raising up leaders at this very hour. We thank you for our great president, President Trump,
I fucking hate this.
for his life,
his
courage, his clarity,
Bunch of
and
put bag all the
unwavering
way down
defense of
to
faith and freedom.
6250.
May your wisdom guide him, and your protection always surround them, according to your
6265
word
calls aren't
that does not
closed
return
yet,
void. In Psalm
but out of the money calls
89:21,
are closing.
that you say, my hand will sustain him, and surely my arm will strengthen him. We bless every person in this room, those you've entrusted this wealth, strategy, and vision to, according to 1 Timothy 6, that you tell us, do not put our hope in riches, but be rich in good works, generous and ready to share. So they are your Josephs in Egypt, the wise stewards in famine. They are your Daniels in Babylon, the uncompromising voice, and your Lydia in Philippi, the ones who expanded the kingdom.
Who is this
Let this be more
bitch?
than a meeting. Let it be a movement where we come together and converge to bless communities, care for others, and reach nations, empowered by your purpose and your grace. Unite us with the common cause to use our time and talent. For thy kingdom come, thy will be done in the earth as it is in heaven. In the mighty, matchless name of Jesus, we pray these things and come in agreement. Bless this food and bless everyone. And everybody said, amen. And by the way, it is Secretary Howard Lutnick's birthday, so I'll wish him a very happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Nutlick.
We are so grateful for your time, President, and my husband John's going to worship. At any time that you have to go, we know that you have spent more than enough time, and you are running the country exceptionally for us, and we are all so grateful. So he will stay as long as possible, but will you let President know how much we love and appreciate him?
On Earth as it is in turn 7.
To remain.
Is that over? Oh, thank God. I had to watch it because he was going to talk about policy. At least he cursed during the church luncheon. If we didn't sin, we wouldn't need saving. Valid. Hmm. So still some bot calls, 65, 70, kind of supporting things. There's bot puts at 70, sold calls to the upside, sold puts to the downside, out to like 50. 50 seems to be sold put support. But 80 is like the bigger resistance on the call side. Hard to get up there though. Probably fairly hard to get over 75. I'm just gonna sit here and wait for profit taking or some buying. I don't know. The number 2 position is heavily contested. I haven't had Hawaiian barbecue yet. I was gonna get some, and then I didn't end up getting any, and now that you've reminded me, I'm pretty sad about it. Uh-uh. Uh, who's more worthy of the crown, me or 1 second guy? Well, he's been here for 4 years, every day. And he lost his wife in the pursuit of the pickle jar, along with several hundred ports. So I'm gonna say Brett. That's a real one. Yeah. Yeah, he is. Hmm. Flying to Idaho right now. I was supposed to babysit my grandpa, but he canceled last minute, so I'll have the house and a supercharged Corvette all to thyself for the week. Nice. Well, I'm very happy. I'm very happy for you. That sounds fun in Idaho. I've sadly not been here every day lately. I'll admit to worshiping a false god named having a real job. What? I thought you quit your job. Shame. You've missed out on some good stuff. I think, maybe. Mm -hmm. I can't quit. I have to pay for the divorce. It's exactly like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but in Idaho. Yeah, that was pretty. I think that was pretty clear. At least the Idaho part. Taco scored Gordon, but not trading him up to 7 full ports. Wow, well done. Should get back below 62.60 today, or is that wishful thinking? No, it can happen. I don't know if we'd stay below it for very long. We seem to be pretty stable. Hmm. Interesting. Dear MMs, give us one good round of profit taking. Amen. I sold some 85 calls. Seemed like a good idea. It's like, I don't know what the fuck else to do here. I suppose I could buy like a put. That seems shitty. That's not how bank earnings might affect the market. There could be some impact from them, I think. I think the GSIBs are probably more important for market impact, but I could see regional banks definitely not hitting profit targets. I don't think the demand for capital has been very high, to be honest. No, I didn't. That's ridiculous. I'm excited for the first stablecoin DPEG for all the new crypto folks. What a wonderful day to be stuck between sold calls and sold puts. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's definitely what we have going on. Yeah, SPX doesn't give a fuck. That's pretty obvious at this point. Mm. What's so $250? 250% today or $3, whichever metric you want to use. This level's heavy resistance on ES. No. It's a like minor resistance, like 6315, right around there. I think there's like a little tiny resistance level, but it's not significant. The only thing that matters to the upside on ES is the all-time high. which is like 63.35. Trump's words have become pretty much insignificant. Boy that cried wolf syndrome. Yeah, yeah, but that means that the market's going to have to react twice as hard to anything actually being implemented. And the copper, steel, and aluminum tariffs have been in effect. The copper tariffs aren't yet, but the steel and aluminum tariffs have been in effect the whole time, as has the 10% base rate tariff. So to think that that's gonna reduce demand enough to offset inflation is a bit um uh, it's a bit overly a bit of an overly like positive outcome. They do make travel bidets. Now I'm just imagining you in some construction site toilet washing your ass with a Propel bottle. I don't like imagining that. I miss the 2% down and up days. Well, they're not right now, okay? They happen. They just don't happen often. You gotta make money in both environments, high vol and low. You can't just only do one. He has 4 monitors to track news. Does he not know that he can just get like a never mind. That's why I play Minecraft too, so I can just play some while low vol happens. Yeah, same. I mean, I don't mind trading futures in this environment. You don't make a lot of money, but you make a little bit of money. It's fun. It's not nearly as scary to not have stops. He's too autistic for me to question. Alright. Most oil traders are. I feel like everything I've read says not to look at EMAs or MAs on the 1 minute chart. You probably just shouldn't look at them ever. All they do is tell you like lies about the past. You're just looking at smoothed price action over a predetermined range of time. They're actually fucking meaningless, and not just on the 1 minute, but on all time frames. There's systematic trades that occur on like longer time frame MAs that you have to pay attention to, but that's more of like an effect, not a cause. Did you lose Discord? Or did I get like what, kicked off? No, I'm still in there. Sounds like my ex lies about the past. Yeah, you're just being gaslit by a shitty indicator. Give me a second. This is exciting. Over 200,000 British people have signed a petition asking the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom to cancel Trump's second state visit to the UK. Huh. Nice. 55 puts, 55 calls, 55 straddles, 55 strangles, and 155 leaps. Wait, what happened? Why are you guys counting numbers of puts? I think the 200 and the 55 MAs are worthwhile. We especially lost without the 200 moving average on the daily. It's fine. I mean, you're not going to be lost without it. You can just fucking make up a line and draw it through spot. It's not like the math behind a moving average is specifically important. It literally just smooths out price action over a window of time. I think you should leave. Why? It's a meme. It's a shitty meme. What's the game plan up here? I told you I sold calls at 85 earlier. My game plan is to not close those, and then, yeah, that's what I'm mostly doing for the day. If I get a chance to sell some puts, I'll do that also. End of day prediction, I don't know, somewhere between 70 and 60 is most likely. It's very early for that though. Way too early to tell. Things could change. Although, I mean, there's not much news, and really nothing until CPI tomorrow. I think Trump's probably done talking for the day. It was about noon when he went on his last 1 hour ramble, so I'm sure the methamphetamine's wearing off. Feels fixed when gamma by expiration is negative for the day. That means we should be more volatile? What if it's about 0, like it shows for tomorrow? It still means that there's more possible trading range. I mean, our range for today is actually not bad. I'm sure that gamma is no longer negative into tonight's expiration. I think you can already see that from here. So when we moved back above 50, we moved back into more positive gamma territory. Remember, that's just the 0 DTE, right? So when you're looking at the live data, you can figure out, like, if we were trading under the gamma flip, sure, but we're no longer. But that's expected, right? Bulls try to pump into the data and stabilize things, which means they want things in a positive gamma environment to ease the slippage on de-risking. But anytime gamma is lower, I mean, gamma is exceedingly positive. Generally it's very flat trading days. Today is not flat. I mean, as bored as you are by not buying calls this morning, we are up 50 bips from like the low of the day. After the British voted for Brexit without reading what it was, I think we should tariff them 75%. Fuck them. I think after Republicans voted for the big beautiful bill without reading what it was, we should send them all to El Salvador. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Put that in your pipe and shove it in your anus. Wait, so on low vol days, you just sell puts and calls outside the MM's expected range? No, I sell them closer to spot than that. The MM's expected upside move is like 62.87. I sold 80 and 85 calls. So, if things start to look squeezy towards the end of the day, I'll just like take my 20% on the calls. But I haven't sold any puts yet because I woke up late. Why did I wake up late? Because my serotonin levels are 0. I'm gonna go pop 3 Adderalls and come back trying to guess the direction of each next 1-minute candle. Nice. Why so confident on the upside range limit? What do you mean? Well, I have stops, and then also I'm better at this than you. My little feet can move faster than a steamroller, so. I still naked calls because I'm a man. JK, that sounds horrifying, and I'm a little bitch. You can just put a buy stop on them for like the price you paid, right, Carl? We're above Vega neutral and basically a gamma max. You think we're gonna get like a 5% upside candle? Even if we did, you don't think it would just mean revert right back to where we are? So Tim Robinson goes through a drive-through trying to start a pay it forward chain to pay for the person behind them. Then Tim quickly drives around to the drive-through again and begins to order 55 of everything. Oh, okay, that's smart. Except in real life, the person being asked if they want to pay it forward on that bill is just going to be like, no. You got to go to like a very rich neighborhood. with a lot of guilt, like Newport Beach, or probably wouldn't work in LA. Maybe Malibu. Yeah, rich people that work in professions where they feel constantly judged. Urology. You gotta ask Dave about that. One sec. That was important. I had to make a bow. Whew. Fuck. Have you noticed that my coloration on them is improved in E2? Look at that shit. Did you just sniff your fingers? No, I sniffed the little piece of bow. It's delicious. They're not microwaved. How dare you? I don't even own a microwave. What is this sycophant scoreboard, and how do I become its leader? I don't know. I think it's just chatting or something. I don't know what does it or how it works. But currently, Bread, DDJT, and Puddin' Flaps. Brett, Dave, and Puddin' Flaps are the top three. Jen's number 4. If you don't own a microwave, how do you reheat Chinese leftovers? A wok with a little bit of oil in it. I don't know how the system works. How do you boil eggs in a pot? Here you go, Jen. But I will warn you, if you have an electric stove, you might... Does this one have a flat bottom? I can't remember. This one's not bad. Carbon steel woks are usually pretty cheap. You don't have to spend a shitload of money on one. You can spend a shitload of money on one. This one's also not bad. This one's got a flat bottom. Why are Chinese vehicles so much cheaper and better than Americans? They're cheaper. I don't know if they're better. If you really want to save money, find like a Chinese restaurant store in Chicago. There's probably a shitload of them. And then just go in there and buy a carbon steel wok. They'll be like $15. Do you have opinions on induction cooktops? They're awesome. And then if you really want to step shit up, Jen, you can get something like this. How the fuck do I share this? Hmm. No, there we go. Like that. That's nice. Because your stove's really not built for that. And then, like they said, if you don't have some sort of ventilation, you're gonna kill yourself. Well, the second one you can put in front of a window. It's portable. But you have to get a rounded bottom wok. But if you want to do cool wok things, you have to have a rounded bottom one. She doesn't have a window. Oh, fucking Chicago. Hmm. I like the videos of people using it and just burning everything in the pan. Oh, it's like some Amazon influencer video. When they throw a handful of raw garlic into 650-degree oil. Yeah. Ooh, it has temperature control too. This is better than my fucking induction burner. I'm gonna buy this thing. Some dude cooking sausage at the highest power setting. Well, I said it would be really, really hard for us to go over 75. I maintain that. With CPI tomorrow, I would say there's like a slim chance that the bulls try to push to close the upside gap before end of day. So I would be cautious of that, but otherwise, yeah, we're fairly close to like where this tops out. 75 or 80 probably is about as high as it can get. God, these are fucking amazing. Yeah, I have their like a industrial rice cooker made by them, and then I have a bread maker. I have a like a kettle. I don't use any of them. That's on Xiaolongbao. I think they're kind of overrated. Um, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of them, honestly. They're okay. I've had some that are really good, but most are kind of bland. Yeah, barbecue pork. A lot of the ones I've had are pretty bland, yeah. Was it undersalted? No, I mean, well, okay, so like that's kind of like a feature of the like Jiangnan Shanghai type cuisine, right? Is that like it's a lot of like you're supposed to taste like the pork and the shrimp and the crab or whatever, and like the it's like that like with the like the aromatics. I've never had one with ham. I'm just saying for like such a small serving of food, they could really ramp up the flavor. And I get that that's not traditional, but like I feel like it's a dish that could just be improved. Din Tai Fung? No, Nanjing or what's that other place? Like mm, ooh, you know who has good ones? It's like North Dumpling on Division Street. It's a dish that's open to a lot of interpretations, and it's hard. It's a bit of meat, some soup, and a skin. Yeah, I know. I have no idea. Good luck finding them, though. Garrett. NW, if you're in the city, try this place. When dump to flips, I feel like losing 70 here is somewhat significant. At least we start falling into the bot calls at 65. Fuck, it's hard to move down here. Oh, cool. There you go. They're pretty good. I mean, for the ones I've had at least, they're the best. Sydney Sweeney is the next Bond girl. No, that's good. That's a role that shouldn't require a whole lot of acting. You can keep writing that, Grey Pubes, but I'm not going to read it. Where's the gap at? Just cause we go and fill the downside gap every day doesn't mean we're gonna fill the downside gap every day. Also, it's at 62. How the fuck did Tim get up there in the top? What is going on? This seems completely random. Damn, Puddin' Flaps fall into 7th place? There's a leaderboard now. I don't know what it means, but it's there. Fucking Carl at the bottom. Figures. I don't deserve it. I remember you saying it's hard to get above 75. Now with Gamma Strike, can I find that out too? Yeah. See how IV turns up after 75? And Gamma peaks at 75? Not exactly easy to get out there. Remember, if Ivy moves up, the MM's gonna sell Delta. Oh god, it's so easy? It's fairly simple, yeah. I was actually talking to someone about this the other day. You know, I mean, like a lot of Gamma Strike is designed to be used intuitively because trading's simple. And I know you guys hate hearing that because you want to overcomplicate it. but trading is very easy, and so these tools are designed to be used intuitively to make that even easier. But the tools have enough depth that if you want to use them for broader analysis, which is not trading, you can. If it's easy, why do I keep losing? Probably psychological, usually. Shit like overholding losers, underholding runners, like not setting stops, not managing, like not sticking to any kind of strict risk management. All the usual foibles. Sometimes you just need to sit down and kick yourself in the tuchus and force yourself to stick to a plan. Give us this day our daily red. Juice has a big learning curve to fully understand, but when you understand it, it's incredible. Yeah, and you barely understand it, so that's. And there's even more. I don't mean that as an insult, but there's even more. I've been in the lead for 3 hours, having paid $7. This is the best dollar per value I've experienced since learning about Nuru massage. Is this why you got divorced? I thought it was the options trading. Will there be a roundtable this week? Yeah, why? I got divorced because she learned about it too. I'm at the point where I can make money on my own. As long as you stay a pigeonhole, that's fine. I don't want to lose money, so we'll see if the 70% down put comes back into the green. I lose money a lot, so now this call is up 6%. I better go ahead and sell it. Yeah, those are the thought processes that go along with those bad decisions. Don't well me. Unacceptable. Tell her you want a divorce. She's already taken your port. She's trying to steal your sperm. Not the point. Doesn't matter. You have to have something. Does she know about the blood in, blood out clause? Have you explained this to her? I missed out on 56 gain on some zero DTs, given I had way too much in there, around 8K, but it killed my flow. I ended up losing a lot after chasing after that. It's revenge trading. Yeah, that's another thing that fucks people. When she replied with how a divorce works, all because she wants to do a huge down payment on a home and not work. You know, I know a guy. If you need help getting out, I got you. CPI forecast is 3%. Not on the low end, but yeah. How bearish is that? It's not good, right? It's definitely not good for inflation, projected inflation to be at 3% over the next 2 years. And also, I should probably note, rising, right? I think far more damaging if core is above 3%. Open Table says it would take 22.7 years to eat out of every restaurant in New York City. I know. And they actually change so often that it's almost impossible to eat at all of them ever. Because 5 years into that, you have 600 new restaurants. I'll totally not check my DM at midnight. Wink, wink. You got it. The logic I use to sell 62.75 calls is there's hardly any delta above 62.75, and I assume the gamma at 75 would rise to be the new peak at end of day. Did I do good? Okay, so I chose to... well, hold on. I assume you're probably selling spreads. I'm selling naked. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But I sold like the 80.85 because that peak of gamma could still get squeezed. You did, right? Like the low delta to the upside, the peak of gamma acting as resistance. Both of those are very, very reasonable, like reasonable action points to sell those calls. But I mean, unless you're going to close them intraday, which I don't know, then there is some risk in selling at the money, like selling at the peak of gamma can be a little bit dangerous. I struggle eating at all the good restaurants in Portland. New York City has to be like 100 times harder. Yeah, I just find places I like and then I go there until they're gone. It's actually easy to eat at all the best restaurants in New York City in like a month. That's a far shorter list. Because just like anywhere else, the bad restaurants are really bad. Do you live in DC? Don't talk up DC like it's awesome. It's a swamp. I've been there. Trump said he drained said swamp. No. Was it attempted to cash settle? Yeah, so I mean, if we lose the downside support, then there's a lot less risk in carrying them. And Vol's still turning up right now, so there's a good chance that we do continue down from here. and there's like a gap at 62, which presents the alternate opportunity for put selling. But yeah, there's a little bit of risk into close, that the sold calls to the upside that are acting as that big pile of gamma, and the lack of delta above that can like shift and squeeze off. So if the 75 like sold calls go in the money, their delta would, like towards the end of day, their delta immediately goes to 1. And that can trigger like a short call squeeze. So as long as, and those aren't very common, but like as long as you have some sort of plan to avoid that, then you can sell the out the money call. Otherwise, it's a lot less stress to have the out of the money. And since I'm selling naked, I need that one strike of padding, because I need to be able to either close out or hedge off the like basically unlimited risk to the upside. I went to a really good sandwich shop this weekend. They have like maybe 10 sandwiches, and there's an old box TV hung up in the corner playing static. Yeah, but is it the Spice Channel? You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't think I've ever cried over Greek food. I think it's fine, but that was different. Slot machine. What were you doing in my swamp? Graziano's Downtown Cafe in Kingston? It's like another state. ASTS. Ooh, look, back down a little bit. Back up a little bit. Hmm. You're thinking what? 48 pits for Friday? Mm, maybe. Mhm. Volatility on it's still coming down a bit. A fucking mess. Mm, I would maybe wait for some of the like out of the money bot calls at 49 and 50 to start closing. Where's gamma neutral moved up to? GN's at 42 now. Dean's moving down. Given Max is still coming down a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it still has a little bit more room to the upside. Different Lime. Welcome back to Zillionaire. Yep, no worries. I'm gonna play you the song anyway.
Welcome to the pickle jar where we send it or we cry. Slapping bids, selling rips. Ivy's high, so am I. Degenerates don't hedge, we just double down. Ride or die till the tendies come round. Food or doom, ain't no in between. One good squeeze and I'm living the dream. Pickles up, no guts, no gain. Billionaires rise, no risk, no rain. Pickles up, pickles up, pickles up. Sealed in the jar, legends are made.
So you're around 2K shares of ASTS, 2350 average. Can you help me through? Help me thinking through some covered call strategies on the position. Yeah. Here. Let me duplicate that and then give me a second. Just want to keep the live data up over here because I need to watch this a little bit. Okay. I mean, we got Gamma Max out at like 50.94. There was some risk in selling calls there because that's not the peak of the Gamma, right? There is higher Gamma out of the money, out at like well, kind of out to like 59. And so I would say that there's some risk selling the at the money calls, but volatility is starting to come down a little bit. And it does appear that calls like at 50 into the next expiration are being sold, and then also like out into the 1st of August. So I would say, given that realized vol is still pretty elevated on longer time frames, like out on the 90-day, it might be more beneficial to be in like the shorter end. See, like the IV10 is very high relative to the 10-day prior performance. IV30 is a little bit more in line. So I would say that most opportunities for call selling are here in the near term. And then, you've got Gamma Max there to act as somewhat of a resistance, unless this gets another like insane round of call buying. Then there's a pretty decent chance that that's going to be somewhat resistive around that range. And so, if you're looking at like short dated calls above Gamma Max, you'd be like, $50. So, you can probably consider something like that, like maybe this Friday. It's 4 days, 11 days. 11 days a little more risk. But the liquidity isn't bad, which might be slightly concerning. Definitely gives you more time to manage the position. But yield there is not terrible. As long as you close under, I guess you could sell about 20 of them. Should probably just take out the fucking That'll give you like 52.88 upside. Which doesn't decay out too badly. If volatility falls sooner, then you can get out of them more quickly. Especially like the short-term IV. Do they have earnings or anything coming up? Yeah, we're doing a little dump. In August. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this might be a good opportunity, or even if you really wanted to. I would say that selling near earnings or at earnings is probably far better for capturing that move up in implied volatility. But in the short term, 10-day vol has room to fall. So, 4 or 11 days out above gamma max with some kind of stop in place. But you can pick up like three grand in credit, which isn't a bad yield. And I mean, even if you got assigned, you'd be getting assigned at, well over 100% gain. They're liable to drop news that could explode the stock any day, though. Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. All right. I really want to avoid getting assigned. Really? Okay. Then go further out of the money, or set like some sort of stop or hedge. Last I checked, there were like a $16 billion stock that didn't make any money and didn't have any assets. Did something change? EBIT margins are negative 7.24. Thousand? Debt to asset ratio is 0.34. They're sitting on $3 of cash per share. Their current return on invested capital is negative 47%. Return on equity is negative 88.95%. I mean, this seems like a company that's propped up entirely on hype, and any bad news would probably trigger a massive sell-off. So a bunch of rumors. But if those rumors don't come true, the stock's worth like $5. Isn't this like a D-SPAC? Talking about SPX? Yeah. I mean, right now on the technical side, it had a failed downtrend that's now breaking back up. But I feel like if there's no realization uh of any of that news, this is just gonna fall right back down to like 38. Hmm. I don't say anything about the Verizon deal. You have to link me to it. How about another leg down? If this upside test at 70 fails, maybe. There's still supportive calls at 65. So a lot of sold puts at 60. And the stock's not going to just continue to run on successful rocket launches, though. Like, the effect of that will trim. Performance per rocket launch will diminish. The fuck would they use telecom satellites for in the Golden Dome? I don't want to know. The whole partnership with Verizon's only $100 million, and it's still pending FCC approval. Hmm. It looks like they have a temporary approval from the SEC for usage of the 5 satellites in place, but that's just for testing purposes. They have 5 satellites and like no money. I don't know. Seems like a lot of hype for new tech that hasn't factored in the cost of scale. I'm not saying that what they're doing isn't innovative or it can't be profitable. I'm saying the company is massively overvalued for the amount of capex that's going to be required to create any kind of robust satellite network. How many satellites do you have? I mean, I could like probably rent one. I could probably rent more than 5. Are you finished buying shares? Yeah, I'm not even on drip on AQN anymore. My cutoff for drip was 555. So it's been a while. Well, if you're going to sell covered calls on it, you're going to face risk of assignment. That's the way selling covered calls works. You don't sell covered calls on things that you think have infinite more upside potential. Although, I'm pretty sure that their $200 million in contracts isn't going to be enough to sustain their current price. $70 close. Time is it? 36. Hmm. Uh, it looks like somewhere between 70 and 60, but technically speaking, bulls could probably push the upside as high as like 75, maybe 77 if they try to turn this around. Not exactly easy. They also don't appear to be like leveraging up very hard. Vol's back above, or VIX is back above 17. MNQ is at 23,032. Downside support at 23,000. ES has got a little bit of downside support at 6,300. And we still have that downside gap. I don't think that matters too much here, but losing 62.66 would be pretty bad. I would say that would make a close at like between 60 and 70 more likely. But if, yeah, watch out. If bulls regain 70, probably bullish into close. As long as they don't, then I would say that this is still bleeding off a bit. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I would say it appears to be bottoming out. Which is kind of interesting given what this measures, but yeah, it does appear that we might start seeing it move up a little. Too soon. Eh. Is the leaderboard just comments? I have no idea. I keep our support Gherk's echoes in my mind from an hour ago. There's still the downside gap. I would slip support a little bit. Hmm. Another day above me and book it. Yep, that is accurate. Hmm. Hmm. turned a penny into $1,000 trading futures now. I don't believe that. A penny? That's not... What? It's earnings based. There's no other indication for KRE unless you want to see some banks print first. Yeah, that would be like... I think the initial regional banks that report are probably going to have the most outsized impact. So that's tonight. And then probably the G-SIBs after that. Trading iron butterflies at 70 instead of letting them expire. Interesting. Well, there's 2 minutes left. I don't think we're gonna squeeze off too much here. So I think my sold 80 calls are safe. My 85s. There's not even 2 minutes left. There'll probably be some profit taking at 70 to contend with too. In the last minute here. Yeah, slipped 70. Probably go back and fill the gap at 67 now. Big moving gamma into close. Few seconds left. Fill the gap at 67. Ding ding. It's over. Wow, we left the gap at 67 open? That's kind of wild. Alright, well, that's the end of the day. Looks like Bulls held onto the level, but didn't close the upside gap into CPI, which might be an early indication of some weakness. Mostly flat on Friday's high, so not really a very impressive push by any means, but back off of the lows, and the 62 like 25-30 support held in the pre-market. So we'll see what CPI brings tomorrow. Obviously that's going to be very important. Out here, yields at the top end of the curve continue to creep up a little bit. The 20 and 30 year approaching 5%, but also largely pricing in that higher expected CPI. I think dollar is too a little bit as it creeps up. If CPI comes in hotter than expected, then yields will have more room to move up from there. But if it comes in as expected, I would say that most of the damage will already be realized. However, even with that, correlation rising rapidly both on the 1 and 3 month time frames, so there is some risk off into these inflation prints, and some probably concern that they could come in higher than expected. I think the room for upside surprise is pretty decent. Commodities pretty flat today, but apparently falling across most sectors. I guess some turnaround in agriculture and metals a little bit, materials, but oil and precious metals down, copper down today. Still no significant increase in bond volatility. Still at very low levels, but up from the 2022 low. Leverage in the carry trade continues to rise as yields at the top end of the curve continue to climb. And we are starting to see a little bit of leverage come in at the short end. Not a ton, but like that's also just kind of creeping up. Leverage at the top end of the curve is almost back to where it was in March, out on the 10-year. And then, obviously that is in an effort to contain volatility, which is creeping up. It's still at like negative 11.95%. Not a lot of, not too much bear steepening going on between the 10 and 2 or the 30 and the 3-month. But some, I mean, the 33-month spread's at about, 6.3 right now. Skew ticked up on Friday. Probably back down a little bit today. Breadth's still narrow, but stocks above their 20-day moving average falling a little bit more sharply. Correlation between VIX, cash VIX still falling, even with VX up today, and VIX 3-month both pricing in some event vol risk as we go into CPI, PPI. Fed fund futures, interestingly, up on the June of 2026, but down for Jan of 26 and for September of this year. And the bear steepener picking up slightly, up to 0.529. Very, very small uptick. Flat. I mean, there's really not much to say about today. We didn't push the all-time high. We didn't fail the prior low. So, just nothing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully CPI yields a little bit more interesting price action as we move into OPEX at the end of this week. Don't get me wrong. Even a hot CPI print, given gamma, and given the fact that SLD doesn't start until Wednesday, could mean that at least the initial part of the day or the initial shock of even hotter CPI could be eaten up by current positioning on the chain. So don't expect like hot CPI to just automatically equal like 2% downside. As we get closer to OPEX and SLD starts to resolve, more downside room will open up. But don't bet on like fucking far out of the money puts and shit without any kind of confirmation. All right. I hope that protects some of you from blowing up your fucking ports on stupid shit. Anyway, that's about it. Thank you guys. Later.